I started remembering that I knew this person. And I thought, oh, it's Jesus. It's Jesus. I started getting really excited time. And I was told, well, why are there so many different religions? And he just, matter of fact, he said it not the way I'd expected to. He said, people are where they're supposed to be. And coming back Earthside, I discovered that's exactly right. So when I go, hello, y'all, I'm Eric Peterson from Salt Lake City, Utah. Exhausted afterwards, so I went to lay down, and and this experience happened where I got touched, and like some man's hand touched me. And I thought it was my dad. I kind of looked up, and no one was there. And then I thought, oh man, oh man. So I saw this happening to myself, laying there, but I also somehow could see it through the wall from the other room. So I saw it from two angles, and that is actually referred to as multidimensional viewing. Okay. And then after this, I was actually taken out of my body. I went through this tunnel, and it was kind of like an amusement park tunnel where it's kind of like spinning, where it had this big sheet of light. I mean, it was just a veil, and it was a man, it was bright. You would not believe it was like arc welder, like billions of arc welder light bright. That's the brightest light I could think of. I crossed into this light, and my it felt like my body dissolved. Now I knew I was a spirit at this point. I knew I was somehow away from my physical body because I was pulled out. And anyway, so I crossed into this light, and when I crossed over, I was totally into the spirit world. And this is where it really goes, you guys, because it was awesome. It was super bright white light. It was very cloudy and misty, but it was like being inside a cloud when you have a lightning strike and you pause that light. When it's really bright and it's very misty. And I gotta tell you, the love over there. Love is light. And I can see people like men and women together. They all have white robes on. They're moving to and from. They're all at different altitudes. I didn't see any floor in between. And they weren't flying like Superman or anything. They were just standing upright. It was like invisible escalators or stuff like that. You just didn't see the floor they were on. It seemed like they were busy. And everybody was absolutely beautiful. Everybody. Because they're light, we're beings of light, and they're light just from inside the glow. Oh man, it was awesome. I wish I could mind meld that to people to let them see that. So, anyway, but as I'm there, I am being healed because you could smell the scent of God out there. That had this beautiful scent out there. It had like sacred music in the background. I didn't really focus on that, but it had like this wind chime sounding effect, and it was just very calming. So I'm standing there, and I think this may be a receiving area into the spirit world because as I'm standing there, um, I'm I'm thinking, man, I'm detached from the earth emotionally, and I felt kind of bad about that. So I thought, well, wonder if a nuclear device goes off in my neighborhood. And this was the Cold War, you guys, at this time. And I just knew it was detached. It's the dumbest thought, but you know what? I got answered. This voice inside me boomed, you don't need to worry about that. And I'm telling you, I was at such blissful peace. It's like, I am not going to worry about that at all. But as I'm standing there, these animals and people started coming into the spirit world. Okay. It was like a horse, an old man, an old lady, cat, dog, rat, frog. It was like these animals were, and they're coming in like little zaps of lightning. And what they look like is like anybody's familiar with sparklers? You'd hold a little firework thing that sparklers, and if you move it like this, it leaves like a orange goldish glow behind it, and that's what these beings look like as they're coming in, and they're not on the floor. They're like basically like hovering, and they're coming in on the sides of me. In fact, I was really nervous that I was going to get hit from behind because these were coming in like bullets. They're so incredibly fast. As soon as I started worrying about that, it completely stopped altogether. So whatever, God was very aware of obviously my thoughts and my intents. So anyway, I'm just kind of looking for a while, and then I started realizing I was moving. I was probably moving for a while. I didn't know I was because I didn't feel any inertia. And then what happened was from this point, I went through another tunnel, and I think I was actually going to a higher realm where the Lord was. So I was in this tunnel for kind of a while. It seemed like I went zillions of miles and at warp speed. So anyway, I went through this tunnel. At the end of this tunnel, I could start seeing this light. And as you're in the spirit, your eyesight becomes super acute. Okay, it's like you can see thousands and thousands and thousands of miles. And I could see this figure with his arms out. So it was the Lord. I didn't know who it was at first. But as I get closer, I can see this figure in the dark. Because of the light in the tunnel seemed a little bit darker. And as I was getting closer, something inside me was waking up. And I met Dr. George Ritchie, who wrote from Return from Tomorrow. Okay, and he said, as you approach the Lord, something inside inside you sense that attention. And because I have a military background, I totally get that. And it was, I started remembering that I knew this person. And I thought, oh, it's Jesus. It's Jesus. I started getting really excited. And I was totally giddy and excited because I knew who this was. Anyway, I come out of this tunnel and I could have crashed into it as fast as I was going, but I just kind of came in and stopped. I was just a few feet away from him. And he was in there, and the Shekinah glory, or the eternal glory, the glory of God was in there, and it was like lightning fire. I mean, just roaring. This white light is absolutely pure. It was like lightning. It was literally like lightning. Feel it. You know, I had a hard time seeing him. I could see a silhouette. You could feel him smiling at you. But you could feel his great power. Oh my gosh, guys, you knew you're in the presence of God the Son. Absolutely, surely. You know what? And honestly, I didn't really believe that much in Jesus before this experience. He was just someone that you heard about in school or church, and he was a nice guy, and people were mean to him. He's misunderstood. I didn't really give it a whole lot of thought growing up, honestly. Okay, but this changed because you knew who it was, and he had all the authority and all the knowledge and all the power and everything, and he just loved you, and you felt this love like you would never can comprehend. But anyway, in this fire, I was trying to look at him, and eventually he would turn it down, but first he grabbed me, okay, and he took me to himself, and he embraced me, he hugged me, and it was awesome because you feel his power. But this love, I cannot describe this love to you guys. We don't really have the language here. It's like describing a food, a color, a taste you haven't experienced. We simply don't have the ability to express this. And it was amazing. He was healing me. He understood me. It felt like he basically took a remote and paused the universe just for me and him. And the funny thing was, he took joy to be in my presence. That's what was crazy. You know, you think it'd be having me having joy with him. It was true, but he was delighted that I was there with him. That was insane. That was totally unexpected. As I was holding him, I realized I was a spirit, but I was holding a resurrected being. He wasn't ghost Jesus or spirit. He was a resurrected being. I stand back from and I'm looking at him, and he eventually turns down the fire, and then I see what I found later in the scriptures in the Bible. It talks about him having a head like a sun. I did see that, and he toned it down, and he finally turned it down, and then he had his eyes of fire took off, and he had blue within blue eyes. So the way I described his eyes, they were like Christmas light blue or sapphires, blue sapphires with light behind it, and they had totally scanned you, and you knew he knew everything about you, and it was awesome. And then he took me to a different location, and he says, "Well, you distance yourself from me," and then he would show me what I did to distance myself, and the way I describe this is like lines in a grocery store parking lot. Okay, you have the little parking lines. Okay, and we didn't have that over there. It was a big white space. But this is the best way I could describe it for people to understand. And every time he mentioned like unforgiveness, boom, I moved back a few feet, and anger moved back again, resentment, revenge, and all these other horrible bad thoughts and mean acts and horrible things I'd done during my life. And he just kept pushing me back. I was like 250 feet away, and you knew he wasn't done. And you just like, I can't believe I've done so many things. And then you just think you don't want to be away from him because you want to be with him the whole time. It's just terrible to feel like how we distance ourselves. And so anyway, he brought me back to him. He says, "Well, I realize you didn't understand that, but now you do." And he pointed to me. He says, "Now you are accountable," because he was correcting my character. He is setting me for the rest of my life because he has expectations of us. We're supposed to love one another. Boom, we're off to another location again. How did we get there? I don't know. It's kind of funny. And this was kind of more of a serious thing because I didn't notice a whole. I was so enamored with his presence that I didn't notice some details. Anyway, so I'm talking to him, communicating. And when you, by the way, over there, a lot of people say it's telepathy. I don't like to say that because it's more than mind to mind. It's like being to being. It's light to light. We're beings of light. And when the Lord talks to you, it's on these different levels. It's almost like chalk. So he's communicating to me. I don't remember the specifics about this at this particular time, but I just remember I finally noticed the prints in his hands and rest of stuff. I was totally blown away. It's like, oh my Lord, it did happen. It did happen. The crucifixion. I saw the prints in his hands, and they were huge, you guys. And I didn't know there was prints in his wrists at that time in my life, and that's actually where they would have crucified him. So the crucifixion really happened. It's like, oh my gosh, this thing really happened. And they were huge. They were big. They looked like railroad spikes. They were square. It looks like that's the impression they gave me, because they had like white. It was like white proud flesh in there trying to heal. And I knew it wasn't supposed to. It was supposed to be symbolic, but it had like a little cross where it just wouldn't heal, where like the skin wouldn't come back together. And this was huge too. And then I saw the ones in his feet, and they were just ginormous. They're like railroad spikes. That's what it made me think. It was like, oh my gosh, I went down to my knees. I was just, oh my gosh, it just shut me up for a while. I was just like, oh my gosh, it really happened. It really happened. It really happened. And you could tell this guy loved me. He loved you. He suffered horribly for everybody, not just me. But at that time, it felt like the universe was paused for me. It made me feel like he did it only just for me. Okay. Amazing love. It's like, oh my gosh. They showed me a flash just for a second, just boom, a flash of the crucifixion. And it only was really quick, but it was way worse. Anybody ever seen the Passion of Christ? It was way the heck worse than that. It was unbelievable. And I gotta tell you, I was humbled. I was just really quiet for a while. I just like, oh my gosh. It was really, really, really sinking in time. And I was told, well, why are there so many different religions? And he just matter of factly said it not the way I'd expected to. He said people are where they're supposed to be. And coming back Earthside, I discovered that's exactly right. So when I go visit that Buddhist priest or that imam I used to study with, or the Native Americans, or the different priests and different Christian denominations, where I see that priest or lay person or that person on the street, that person was exactly where they needed to be to minister unto others. So I was like, oh, I get that. It took me a few years to kind of like validate that and to understand that. I know religion is usually used as guidelines. Now, for me, I've had this question asked me lots of times. This is how I answer it. Well, God reveals Himself to us. Okay, a lot of people say, "Oh, He's just an energy out there and everything." Well, God reveals to us as a person type of person, and He has expectations for us, right? But I would say your relationship with God is individual, personal, not institutional. My relationship with God is not necessarily through a church or a pope or a prophet. It's individuals one on one, and nobody worships exactly the same. I don't care, even if you're Catholic or Buddhist or whatever. Nobody is exactly the same in their meditations or their practices or their personal way they see it. Religion, it's a way to guide people. It's made a way for people to come together. It's a way to serve one another and work on our talents, because of the scriptures that the Christian scripture says, "Forsake yourself not from assembling together," and you're commanded to be in the fellowship of believers. And what that means is coming together, using your talents to help others, and them to help you. And if you need assistance, they're there to help you. And it's all about service. It's all about service. And if you're there to help them, but I mean, I don't think to have a relationship with God, you don't need necessarily religion. You just need to have a relationship, like a family member. Now, I'm a spiritual person, but I do religious type things as outward appearances. That's how I connect. That's part of my meditation, and that's how I connect with other people and stuff like. And it would be considered religious, and it is. But I don't think religion is necessary in fact that you use it to control other people. There's a lot of unrighteous dominion out there. There's a lot of like manipulation, the way to think. There's like a lot of legalism out there, telling people, well, you can't see God unless you do this and this and this and this. I mean, God has revealed Himself. He reveals exactly what He wants from us. We're supposed to love one another. Jesus is an example. Buddha was a great example. It's amazing how much Buddha and Jesus had come. Now, Jesus is God the Son. I could totally testify, and I witnessed that. But there are so much good in so many different religions. Okay, I mean, I'm Christian for me because that is what I'm supposed to do, and I do interfaith work. But I did learn whatever religion you are in, that has something to do with your eternal progression. So it's no accident. Maybe everybody was supposed to follow a particular religion in old days, and the adversary decided to twist it and mess it up. All I know is God turns that around and turns it for good, because variety is important. Maybe for me, I had to learn certain things from the Buddhists, which I totally love. Those guys were great in my life, man, and they made me aware, and they were awesome. They made me stronger in my own belief system, but they were really, really super respectful. Same with the Native Americans and a few other people. But I have certain there's certain groups that I have affinities for. So that would be the Buddhist culture and the Native American culture, and then my old Scandinavian cultures type of thing. Okay, but religion, it's a very good stepping stone to help you get closer to the Lord. But I think all you have to do really is reach out personally. Just reach out. Just, hey, God, if you're there, reveal yourself. And just have a relationship. Because a lot of people think you have to be super worthy and this and that to before God will talk to you. He'll take you from where you are, man. So religion is good in many ways, but it could also be misused and abused. And guess what? It's used for war, right? You have these jihads, you have all these holy wars, and it's made to separate people and can cause contention among our brothers and sisters. I'm not into that, man. No, a lot of people that don't have a particular religion, and they're great people. They're out serving one another and stuff like that. That's the big mandate. Religion is used for, like I say, a place of assembly, coming together and service to one another. In that, learning, teaching from one another. I mean, that's totally up to them. That's up to them. My concern for someone in that, I would ask them, are you serving one another? Are you still forgiving other people? What are you doing to contribute to the collective? Are you helping them? Are you forgiving them? Are you just causing contention? Oh, I hate religious, or religious people suck. Are you doing that? Or are you just like, well, what can we do to bring understanding together? What can we do to be an olive branch to each other? We went to this really, really cool place. And it was we went it's hard to explain. Went to I would say another higher realm, and this time it wasn't just all white environment. It had like a space thing behind it. It was like I was open up to space, and then where we were, I was with the Lord, and He was to my left, and He showed me this building that looked like a Greek Parthenon type of building, or a Romanesque type building, something you just find in Rome or Greece or something like that. And this lady comes down these stairs, and she's got dark hair. And in America, we have this actress called Angelina Jolie, and it looks like a young Angelina Jolie. It looks a lot like this other person that I was shown to meet in the future from my experience that I met a few years later. I mean, just doppelganger. And anyway, I see this lady come down. She had like an air of importance. It wasn't haughty. It wasn't arrogant. And she didn't say a word. And she came down and she had like this Greek priestess, what makes me think of a Greek priestess dress, because everybody over there I saw had white robes that had like sleeves at least up to the wrists, kind of a thing up here at least, and she just had bare arms. And that I want to let people know that not only that Jesus is real, and whatever religion you're in is pretty much what you're supposed to be. A lot of people fight about that and stuff like that, which I don't like at all. But I want to tell you a part where I was with the Lord at the end and we were communicating, and I felt kind of ashamed. I kind of like looked down like this, and he goes, well, what's the matter? As if he didn't know, right? And I says, well, geez, Lord, I feel ashamed because I can't love you like you love me, because you totally fell in love, and we are not capable like that, right? And he goes, let me show you something. And he showed me the earth. He showed me all the oceans, all the waters everywhere. I mean, every part of the water, all the underground lakes, basically seas under the earth, in the clouds, in the gutters, in the drains, in everywhere, on bugs, on plants, every particle of water that there is on Earth. Period. End of it. And that represented His love for us. Okay, that's for all of us. Okay, and He showed this cloud over this ocean and this raindrop form and fall. It was almost comical because I focused on this raindrop and I watched it fall all the way down and plunk in the ocean. And that actually represented if I was perfectly the best I could be, like John Paul II or something. That would have been his love, my love, like compared to his oceans and oceans of love and everything. And then he looks at me and he says, "You're not," and he points a lot at me. He says, "You're not capable of loving like that." And he pauses, and he looks at me and he goes, "Yet." And I'm totally, oh my gosh, because I felt like an amoeba for him. Here is the grand, infinite being. I'm just a finite being, and I'm kind of a worm and amoeba before him. It's like I can't believe that. So I really wanted to share that part. That's so important because nobody can fathom the love unless you cross over or have this experience or whatever. But when you cross over, wow, it's unbelievable. And so, anyway, getting back to where I left off before, I was allowed to go explore the eternities for a little bit. Okay, and one of the places I went to was this. I don't know how to describe this to anybody here. I don't have the language or a point of reference, I was off exploring a lot, and I was starting to figure out how I was starting to move. I was doing this by myself, speed of thought, or you were just kind of guided. It's like almost like you're a tour. So I realized after a while I was moving by the speed of thought, and I was starting to remember things or learning things. I call this connecting to God's Wi-Fi because you're knowing things that no one's really telling you, but you have assured, absolute, pure knowledge that you have it. It's hard to explain. It's like looking stuff up on the internet. There it is for you, but you have that inside you. Anyway, I went somewhere, and it was like there's a big old building, and there's like this ramp coming down, and it was like all these different people from different religions from different time periods had passed, and these people were coming down this ramp, and they had white robes on, white clothes on, and this is where I met people from different faiths. And I was just going up, just kind of looking at these. They're kind of talking and communicating among themselves. And I kind of walk up past this guy, and I actually thought this guy looked like Master Po from Kung Fu. This is a TV series in the United States back in the early 70s. And I'm thinking this guy looks like Master Po a little bit. And as he walks by me, his clothes flooded from being white to Shaolin colors. And all he said to me was, in life, I had been a Shaolin priest. And then I met people that had been Muslims and the Sikhs. They had the turban and everything on. And I met like Catholic priests. And I remember meeting this one lady. She had been Catholic nun, but she didn't have a habit on or anything. She just had like this really old white dress. It looked like from 100 and something years ago, like an old prim and proper white dress, kind of with the frizz up here, and something they wear like you see in the pictures from 100 and 120 years ago. And anyway, so these people were very loving. They had served the Lord they in their own ways. Not everybody believed in the Lord, but they lived according to the light. They served one another. They assisted. Obviously they forgave people because you can't really be in certain places unless you've overcome certain things of the flesh, right? And so anyway, this I gotta say, meeting the Lord and when he told me about people where they're supposed to be, and this particular moment in time really activate my interest in interfaith work. Because once I was forced to come back earthside, I pursued interfaith ministry. I studied the different religions, of course, all the different Christianities, stuff like that. And I know that's typical for a lot of near death experiences. They come back, they want we have a hunger to learn all things learnable. It's insane. Okay. And so I did that. I mean, I studied with the Native Americans and the Muslims and the Hindus and the different versions of Buddhism, and same with Christianity and all this and that. So it made me stronger in my own beliefs. Like pretty much what I believe is what I learned from the masters of my experience, kind of a thing. Moving on as I explore, because I love everything to do with space. Okay. And and I consider that more of a thing with God the Father, because I always call anything in space my father-son project with him, because I love astronomy. I love collecting like space models like lunar landers, Saturn V rockets, Artemis type stuff, and anything in space I consider a connection to God the Father. Sure, absolutely. It's been a pleasure to be with everybody. God bless you. Thank you. I hope everybody has a blessed new year with lots of prosperity, peace, and happiness. And just be a light, love one another, be a light unto others, and serve one another. Thank you for your time.